Hi guys, this video is about how to care for Calathea Orbifolia houseplants. These are some of my favourite houseplants of all time. I love Calatheas, but Calathea Orbifolia is something just a little bit special. The leaves are huge with lovely stripes of silver and dark green, and it just looks stunning no matter where you put it. It's not an easy plant to look after, and you really do need to be on your toes and up for a challenge if you want to keep this plant looking great. But it's really worth the challenge, so I would recommend anybody to get this plant. It'll also teach you a lot about houseplant care because you will make mistakes with it and you'll learn as you go. My name's Andrew from smartgardenguide.com, and I really hope you enjoy this video. So the first thing to say is this plant isn't actually officially called Calathea. Its name was changed a few years ago to Goeppertia, so it's now Goeppertia Orbifolia, although most people still call it Calathea Orbifolia, and if you're looking for it in the shop, it'll probably be called Calathea Orbifolia. In terms of lighting, Calathea Orbifolia prefers bright indirect light. So keep it away from direct sunlight, keep it away from windows that are going to get a lot of direct sunlight, but also don't put it in a dark corner because it's not going to thrive there, it's not going to grow new leaves and look its best. If you do put it in direct sunlight, you'll start to notice scorching of the leaves, you'll notice brown edges and brown spots on the leaves where the leaf is dried out or scorched. So over the course of a few days or a few weeks, just check on your plant during the day and make sure it's not sitting in direct sunlight, because this will really affect the look of the plant. It'd be such a shame to spoil such a beautiful looking house plant. Watering is probably the most crucial aspect of care. Calatheas love sort of generally moist, lightly moist soil. So you need to check on your Calathea every few days, feel the soil. Once the top of the soil dries out a little bit, then you want to water it. And I would recommend watering it thoroughly. I tend to take my plant to the sink. I will add water with a watering can and let it run right through the pot and let it flow freely out of the drainage holes in the bottom. I'll typically let the plant sit in the sink then for a few minutes afterwards to let all the excess water drain out. Because the other thing these hate, although they like lightly moist conditions, they hate soggy soil. They are prone to root rot. So if you forget to empty the drip tray, or if you have them in an outer decorative pot like this plant, and you forget to empty excess water out of that after watering, they can pick up root rot very, very quickly, and that can be catastrophic. I did have one Calathea, a Calathea zebrina, that got root rot a while ago, and it did recover, but most Calatheas, when they get root rot, it spells the end, so you just need to be really careful with watering. Other things that can impact watering, you want to make sure that your Calathea isn't in too big a pot, because the soil is going to stay wet for a long time after watering. You want to make sure your pot has plenty of drainage holes, and you do want to leave it after watering for a few minutes to make sure that all the excess water has drained out. Soil, you want to make sure that your soil does retain a bit of moisture but also drains well. You can just use a standard houseplant potting mix if you want. I tend to add some perlite or coarse sand to most houseplant potting mixes to improve the drainage. So typically for Calathea, a good mix would be just 2/3 of a houseplant potting mix and 1/3 of perlite. That would work quite well, or coarse sand or pumice would work well in place of perlite also. Temperature wise, Calathea is just like standard indoor temperatures. They hate drafts, so hot or cool drafts, drafty windows, air conditioners, heating vents, they're really not going to like those, so keep them well away. Temperatures of sort of 65 to 75 degrees Fahrenheit or about 18 to 24 degrees Celsius is perfect for them, although they will be okay a little bit outside this temperature range. Fertilizer, Calathea Orbifolia does benefit from a wee bit of fertilizer. They will they will grow more new leaves. They'll be a bit fuller, a bit healthier. The leaves that they do grow will be bigger if they get some nutrients, but they don't need much. So really, monthly at most, and if you are applying a fertilizer, dilute it well, okay? At least to sort of half the strength that you would apply to, you know, outdoor plants. Sometimes I even go like a quarter strength fertilizer. I just use a balanced fertilizer with equal amounts of nitrogen, potassium and phosphorus, and it works pretty well. If you notice sort of white crusts developing on the surface of the soil, or like brown edges on the leaves, and you can't work out why, just think about fertilizer. You know, if you've been fertilizing on a regular basis, it may be that some of the salts have accumulated in the soil. So flushing the soil with loads of water or repotting your Calathea might be the solution for this, and obviously cutting back on fertilizer. Humidity is, again, another crucial thing. If your humidity levels in your home are less than 40%, your Calathea is going to struggle. It's, again, the foliage is going to suffer. It's going to get brown edges, the leaves may curl, and it's just not going to look its best. So it is well worth, you know, if you don't have humidity of at least 40% in your home, adding some supplemental humidity. You know, you can do this by like grouping your houseplants together, or setting your Calathea on a humidity tray, or even just using a humidifier will work really, really well. I'm lucky in a way, and I live in Northern Ireland and our summers are very humid. So the room that I keep this Calathea Orbifolia in, the humidity level is about 70%. So the plants love it. I don't love it quite so much, but the plants do love it. Pruning wise, really just damaged leaves, old leaves, you can prune them off as needed. Prune them off at the base, and new leaves will come through. Interestingly, actually, new leaves come through. I don't know whether this one actually has any new leaves coming through. Not currently, but I will. I'll put a wee video on the screen now of my other Calathea Orbifolia growing a few new leaves. They come up very tightly curled. They grow up from the rhizome underneath the soil, and they're coiled up like a straw coming out of the ground, and then they will slowly unfurl. Propagation, I did actually propagate this one earlier in the year. It was a much bigger Calathea Orbifolia, and I divided it. I divided the rhizome, so I just took it out of its pot and carefully divided the rhizome, just generally with my hands, separated any loose soil, and divided the plant into sort of 2 equal sections, and then repotted them. They don't like being repotted. They don't like being divided. They get a bit stressed by this. So after I divided mine, the plant kind of sat there for about 6 weeks and did nothing. But eventually it did start putting out new leaves, and it was happy enough. They don't grow very much after being disturbed. So again, after you've repotted is a time that they would be at risk of overwatering and root rot, so just take care. I was very close to overwatering this plant after I divided it, so definitely something to watch out for. Problems, yeah, okay, there's a lot of problems with Calathea Orbifolia, but problems are just learning opportunities, aren't they? So Calathea Orbifolia will teach you about houseplant watering, humidity, it'll teach you about lighting, it'll teach you about proper fertilizing. So, you know, when you first get one of these, you will have problems. You know, the leaves won't look perfect. Even sometimes, you know, whenever you buy the plant and bring it home, as it adjusts to the new conditions, it'll develop, you know, bits of brown leaf or leaf curling, or a few leaves will turn yellow. The lower leaves maybe, you know, might turn yellow and die. But just try and focus on providing the conditions that this plant needs, and it'll come through it really nicely. Pests wise, I mean, Calatheas are not particularly pest resistant. I have had spider mites on one of my other Calatheas, which was fairly devastating for that plant. Fungus gnats, which are a bit more of a nuisance. I've had on a few, and I haven't really had any other pest problems, but I hear they can be prone to pests. I think the key is to just check your plant on a regular basis and act quickly. So isolate any affected plants and treat them on a regular basis until you're confident you've got rid of all the pests, because otherwise, you know, the plant will suffer. So overall, I adore this plant. It's fantastic. I'd hugely recommend you to get one. I really hope you've enjoyed this video. I would really appreciate it if you've got any questions or if you've got your own advice about how to care for Calathea orbifolia, please leave a comment below. If there's anything I've said that you think's inaccurate, or if you've any advice for me, I'd love to hear it, because I'm always trying to learn more. I'm not an expert by any means. I'm still learning, and hopefully we can learn together through these videos. If you've enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to the channel. I'm planning to put out plenty more videos over the next weeks and months. So many thanks for watching, guys. Till the next time, bye now.